Today we're making this chicken zucchini and rice casserole. It uses the abundance of summer, which is zucchini, a bright, beautiful marinade for the chicken, which is soaked into the zucchini, all baked together in a delicious, slightly creamy sauce that really is gonna hit all the notes and make you happy with cheese on top. Let's put it together so you can make it too. For a zucchini chicken bake, it uses the best produce of the summer, but we want to make sure we have a lot of flavor. Zucchini on its own doesn't have a lot of flavor, but we can add flavor, and we can start by making sure the chicken is juicy and super flavorful, which starts with a quick brine. So putting it in a brine is just a way to make sure that you can trap in the moisture that's in the chicken, season it, salt is super important, but then also add some other things too. So what we're gonna start with is the brine itself, which is very simple, and it's gonna start with a lemon. So I'm gonna grab a lemon over here. I will always have fresh lemons, usually on my counter, because they come in so handy for anything year round, but in the summer, when you were doing a brine or a vinaigrette, a dressing, whatever it is, these add that brightness you want. So I'm gonna put the lemon juice right into here, but also what the lemon juice is acidic, which means it will actually help marinate the chicken even quicker. So we're putting it right into the bowl. And to that then, we wanna pump it up with some oil. So the one I'm gonna use is olive oil. I wanna make sure I have a good, flavorful oil. And what this is gonna do is, one, when we cook the chicken, it's gonna coat and make sure that it has a lot of flavor. And then it's also going to just add a nice richness to it, which to me is super important. To that, we're also gonna have some spices here. So we have just some black pepper, dried thyme, which we're gonna use both fresh in this recipe, but dried here, and garlic powder. The reason we're using dried thyme here, anytime I do a marinade, to me, a dried spice or herb in this case is gonna actually be able to work with the chicken better and not just burn when we cook it like a fresh herb would. So along with this, a little bit of sweetness and honey, and also some salt. Salt, like I said, in anything is super important. So we're gonna add our salt, because that's gonna actually season the chicken. And then the honey's gonna add a hint of sweetness, but also browning when we cook it. I just wanna whisk the marinade together. Now, it's not gonna be an emulsified like dressing or vinaigrette. Instead, it's just going to be making sure that that salt is getting dissolved into the mixture, that the herbs are getting, just evenly interspersed through everything. And guys, you should always smell it. It smells so good. You smell the nice richness of the olive oil, that brightness of the lemon. It's just delicious. So now what we're gonna talk about is the chicken. I always have a separate small or plastic cutting board I use for chicken so I can wash it easier. I don't like to use it on my wood one. So what we have are a couple chicken breasts, which to me are just a staple because you can keep them, in the freezer, or you can just have them ready to go. If there's any fat like that, I trim it off personally. So then what we're gonna do is start by cutting some strips. Now, I like some irregular dice size pieces on this. What does that mean? It means imperfect, and that's okay. I don't need a perfect little dice or small dice. I like them just to be a size that can be easily, chopped up. So what we have here is some slices, and then I'm gonna take them across and give them another nice kind of chunky slice. So I'm gonna do this to both breasts, and then we'll start marinating. You may wonder, why are we not just using a ground meat? I mean, this is a casserole. It's a hot dish, really. And the reason, which usually they have a ground meat in them, I think one, you have a better heartiness with just cutting up chicken breast, and in the end, better flavor, because you can marinate it, you can actually add flavor. So when I have them all chopped up like this, I wanna put them all directly into this marinade. I'm gonna put them right in here, and you can see how easy it is to get them all underneath. I kind of even like to mix it up with my hand. Yes, you can wear a glove, whatever makes you feel comfortable doing it. And now what I'm gonna do is cover this and put it in the fridge for, 30 minutes up to an hour, that's fine. They're small pieces, it will go pretty quick, but I'm gonna wash my hands, cover it, put it in the fridge, and then we'll move on. This has been marinating, so now I'm ready to cook it. So I have a skillet heating, and you know that there's oil in the marinade. So I'm not gonna pre-oil my pan, but I do have it heating, and what I wanna do is let a lot of that just stay on the chicken as I put it down in, because that oil is gonna also then cook our zucchini. It's gonna kind of cook it all. So what we're gonna do is put it right in there. And I wanna cook and brown this chicken. And a little bit of that honey will help it brown slightly. So we're gonna make sure to cook it all until it's fully cooked through. Remove it, then add zucchini, and just kind of build the beautiful casserole on top of that. The chicken is just getting done. You can see it's just taking on a little bit of color, which I like. And that's from that honey we put in, but a lot of that residual oil and honey is still down in there, which is perfect when we start cooking the zucchini. So I like to remove all the chicken because it's fully done, and I don't want it to overcook because we're gonna finish cooking this whole dish in the oven. So I'm taking all that chicken out, but leaving all that goodness from the extra marinade that was on that chicken. We didn't pour in all the marinade, but any that was on the chicken just went in with it as we were scooping it in. So I'm leaving that. I'm gonna turn it down just a bit until we get our zucchini all the way ready. So I've been getting my zucchini ready, which I'm just giving it a nice kind of quarter and a dice. So zucchini comes in all shapes and sizes. You can see I have a multicolored one that's kind of a green, dark and light stripe. You can get just the traditional. Now I like using smaller ones because the inside pithy part is not as bad. If you happen to get a huge one, it happens. Then you can just open them up. And if they were really big, I would scoop out the center just because that will be a little bit too much in this casserole, and a little bit too much water content. So if they're small like this, I just like to quarter them and give them a nice dice. If they're big, I would still definitely quarter them, if not eighth them, but also take out that center seedy pith because it will just be more fun to eat that way. So what I'm gonna do is make sure my heat is still going, and I'm gonna put all this zucchini in, and then we'll chop up some garlic and add that too here at the end. But what I want is the zucchini to start taking on some of that flavor that's in there and a little bit of color. I just chopped some garlic and a little bit of thyme, which the thyme I usually just pull off the stems. I just strip them off because I think it's easier, those little leaves, instead of trying to chop them all. And so I'm gonna pick all this up, and you can come over and see now that the zucchini in just a few minutes is taking on some of that beautiful color. That's what I want. I want some of that fond on the bottom of this pan because we're gonna put this right into the oven then. And so if we put this garlic in now, we don't want it to burn, and if it cooks too long, garlic can turn bitter. So instead what we're doing is just warming it through, and instantly what I'm getting hit with is this beautiful aroma of garlic, which means it's doing its work really quickly. If you sometimes overcook garlic at too high of heat, it turns bitter, and then you really notice that all throughout your dish. I'm gonna turn the heat off. I'm gonna now take this whole casserole. This is why I'm using a stove to oven ready casserole, because now it smells so good. This right here in itself could be a side dish. So now what I'm gonna do is just assemble everything else. So what we have is rice that I rinsed and drained. I use jasmine rice. I like the flavor. I like how it cooks. And I just think it's a simple one to use. That's always what I have on hand too. So I'm gonna put that right in there. And we can put everything else in there too. So we have our chicken. Any residual juices that were on that chicken, we're putting those in too. Now remember, the chicken is fully cooked. So we're putting that right in with everything else. This is seriously such an easy and delicious way to use so many things, but also make it for a weeknight. So I'm only stirring this together to somewhat evenly get these all mixed together. That chicken, the zucchini, the rice. And what's great is zucchini, we cooked off some of the liquid and the extra water content in it just now by sauteing it, but then anything extra will get soaked in by that rice. So it's really a great match to put all these together. This to me is an update on a casserole you would have had maybe growing up, with a little bit more flavor, a little bit more ease. So what I have here is some chicken stock, because we definitely need more liquid for the rice. We have some heavy cream. So instead of using those condensed soups, canned things, I like to do it in just ways that will give it a nice richness and thickness without any of that. And then some sour cream. So the sour cream, again, it just adds that richness and a tanginess that I think really balances out those flavors, because you need that when you're working with something like a casserole. You need to balance everything, you need a richness. So we're just gonna whisk this together. As that's getting whisked and ready to go, I do like to salt everything at the end. You can salt the zucchini as it's going to, but the thing is, all we've done so far is seasoned the meat, and so I like to make sure this is gonna have good seasoning too. I do have some Parmesan cheese that's freshly grated. I mix that right over everything. That's gonna bake into it. And then we're gonna put this whole beautiful mixture right on top. So we have the chicken stock, that heavy cream, the sour cream, and all of this is gonna work in tandem to soak into that rice and really, in the end, make a casserole. Isn't that beautiful? You can make casseroles really out of anything. So now I'm just kind of evenly putting it out. And then the finishing top, because one, at the moment, it's like, well, what? This isn't looking great. This doesn't look like a casserole. That's because we don't have the cheese. So I'm gonna put some Monterey Jack on top, which to me is a perfect melting cheese with just enough flavor to kind of enhance everything we're working with, but also just give it enough. Now, we don't need an overabundance. We need just enough to kind of give it that flavor and also give it that melting, ooey gooey top. I mean, look how good this looks. So what I like to do when I bake it is start with the lid on, because it is rice. So I have a lid, and also cover it with foil if you want to. We're We're gonna put it into the oven. And then with a few minutes left, I'm gonna take it off to make sure that cheese gets a little bit of color on it, because I think that's where a lot of the beauty can come from. I took the lid off for the last bit of baking just to make sure, and I broiled it a bit at the end just because I like the browning on top of that cheese. It doesn't need to be browned, I just like that. But what you can see now is, it's hot, but you have a perfectly set, beautiful casserole, and that's what you want. And it smells, I always wish I could just like pass on the beautiful aroma in here. I can't, but I can show you what it's like. So what's great about this is, you get the rice, you get the zucchini, you get pieces of chicken. I mean, look at that beautiful kind of plethora of hearty pieces that are gonna come together to make a meal. And that to me is what's important to know. You get all of that right in here, and it's all gonna work together that it can be a weeknight meal. This can be a Sunday noon meal. That's what I like about this. It really can work for a lot of different things. And let's bring back the idea of having casseroles. If you have company over, you can do that because it's good. It's hot too. The flavor is layered. It is not just a one-note dish. You have some richness from that cream and sour cream with a little bit of tang, but then you get that beautiful chicken that was marinated in the lemon, and the thyme comes through in various ways. The dried thyme with the chicken does something different than the fresh thyme that we put into the casserole. And then those beautiful pieces of zucchini were cooked in that marinade residual that was in that skillet, so they soak up some of those bright flavors. And what you have in the end is a great dish that uses vegetables, good protein, and economical rice. That's the best part. You can kind of make this all thing and it can serve a lot of people at a low cost and be delicious. It's hitting all the notes. So what do I hope you do with this? I hope you see that good food does not have to come out of a box. It can be made at home and completely homemade to serve your friends, your family, or just yourself, and nourish yourself all week long with leftovers if you want it. So share this video around so others can see how easy this is too. And until next time, check my website, wiseguy.com, where you can print and view this recipe all you want and all my other recipes. Enjoy.